Slugterra began on Disney XD over in North America, but after season 4, it was moved to Netflix. This is the last season that aired on television, and after the main two antagonists, Dr. Black and the Dark Bane, were defeated, we kinda just get to find out where the show is going. New horizons, I guess. I'm trying to keep my hopes up that they have some cool ideas they plan on delivering. They even have Pronto narrate a quick summary of what's been happening, presumably to catch up new viewers as well as add some funny jokes for the longtime fans. Thank you to everyone who watched part 1 of this deep dive. I'm glad I went back to actually revisit the show because I can see why there's so many diehard fans. I'm going to be covering the rest of the main series in this episode, so let's get into it. New bad guys, spiky guys, and for some reason they have ghouls, even though there isn't supposed to be any, which either means Black is back or they've figured out how to manufacture more ghouls. Weird, creepy guys are going through a portal at the edge of the world, and they can ghoulify slugs just with ghouled slugs. The ghouls make more ghouls, and now they're worse because they can't discern friend from foe. And they lose Doc. Jeez, it's like they actively try to get Doc out of the picture because having him makes things uninteresting. I feel like Doc being removed from the picture is the equivalent of Samus Aran losing her armor at the beginning of every Metroid game. Now that I mention it, Slugterra has some Metroid vibes. Anyway, bad guy has his own burpee.
So what do you want me for?
I need a new host. It can bend a slinger to my will, like the one I ride now.
Honestly, it's about time. If slugs are so important to this world, it'd be weird if there wasn't super advanced slugs. We have a bad guy who thinks he's a good guy. This Goondoc thinks humans are a virus and are invading Slugterra. He wants to make Slugterra great again by having slugs go back to being the master race.
They're gone for good.
They're not gone. Neither is Black, and perhaps your father.
Maybe you can finally ask him why he never gave you any straight answers to anything. Burpee rescues Doc, and then, geez, this guy is just lore dumping like crazy. Turns out there's only one Burpee in every realm, and it's held by its protector. Why is their realm the only one that doesn't know any of this stuff? They're really secluded from the rest of the underground world. The portal closes, so that resolves itself. Doc heals up Eli, so no more mind control for him. Hey, you know that hypothetical when someone asks you if you could be immortal, but there's like this one slug that's always coming after you, and if the slug touches you, you die, would you take it? Do you think a creepy mind control slug that's focused on destroying the human race is scarier? And because people can't be killed, he just gets Palpatined down a hole, which means he'll definitely come back later. Don't know why Eli thought that'd fix everything.
Still some kind of connection. Like, I can almost hear what he's thinking. Find a slinger.
So, I would guess that means he also knows what you're thinking? I hope this is a pivotal plot point and not just them being all like, oh, there's danger coming. Having them try to one-up each other through a meager psychic connection could be awesome. Also, we got Junji, the protector of the East, that's also here. Eli is also getting visions from his dad, and something about 5 elements. Wow, they actually are using a psychic connection to progress the plot. Didn't think it'd be like this.
The caverns in chaos under the shadow of the goon, and a monstrous claw that...
A claw?
For seemingly no reason, their slugs get ghouled. Literally all of them. Can Doc get ghouled, or is he immune? Speaking of which, he's actually useless. Shadow Clan has a message from Eli's father, which... You're telling me the Shadow Clan knew about Eli's dad being alive this whole time? If I was Eli, I would be upset. Dad is still dead. It's just a recording. He tells them that all slugs derive from 5 elements because we can't have an Eastern Oriental inspired season without adding the elements. So if you corrupt the source of the element, all the slugs that are connected to that element get corrupted also. Like trickle-down economics, except it actually works. Goondoc mind controlled the Dark Bane. Wow, Goondoc is behind this? I am so surprised. You could have just put him in one of your little glass containers and you wouldn't be having this problem. They go straight after the water elemental, but I would have gone straight for the fire elemental first because, I mean, I'd try to protect Burpee. Also, Dr. Black is back, and he's been dark-baned. Glad they didn't get rid of the old villains.
No, the Goon and I have bigger plans for you.
That's so dumb. Why can't a villain just be properly evil? Or, you know, competent?
And the Shane, why didn't you finish him? I want him to suffer. You're a fool. You should have ended this while you had the chance.
Thank you. I like this bad guy better than Dr. Black. Junji, or Junjay, if you pronounce it how they pronounce it, isn't really adding anything significant to the story. I assumed he'd teach Eli some cool new tricks and move to be a better slug slinger, but so far he's just trying to help and just another sidekick. A sidekick that's kind of a stereotype. Every time they say slug foo, I roll my eyes. I'm holding out hope that this is just him. If they go to the Eastern Caverns and everyone is like this, then that's pretty bad. However, I do love this. Turns out Doc is so special because he's the energy elemental. They already had an elemental this whole time, and it explains why there isn't any more of him. The Shane gang have earth and energy, and now they have to race for the fire elemental. Color me surprised. Bad guys ghoul the fire elemental. Season 4 is 3 multi-part specials, which some people argue is just a series of mini-movies, which both is correct. Each mini-movie ties into each other, essentially creating one really long story. I only wish it wasn't so predictable. I'm a little disappointed with it so far. Understandably, Goon Doc gets upset at Dr. Black and decides to just toss him aside. He just wants Eli dead and gone, like a proper villain. Honestly, Dr. Black wanting to keep Eli alive is the Shane gang's biggest asset. We figure out that Goondock knows the location of the elementals because he's mind-controlled Eli's dad. His dad has been alive this whole time? So while Shane got sucked into the Dark Bane after he fought Dr. Black, does that mean he's been turned into a Dark Bane? Eli hits him with Doc and, well, honestly, he doesn't look that bad. Just when you thought Eli had his dad back, he sacrifices himself to save his son from Black and Goondock. Bummer, man. At least you know he's alive, so he has to man up and set aside his emotions for the good of Slugterra. They put the elementals in their blasters and they fire them all at once, and some cosmic nature force thing happens where they fly around and heal the world. Now we're going after Eli's dad, or at least that's what you'd think. The twist of Eli's dad being alive is very difficult for me to comment on because literally everyone spoiled it for me in the video that I made years and years ago. Having his dad be alive and having that be a very interesting motivator is so captivating to me, especially with how much the world really hypes up his dad. The only problem is, they never save him. What the heck? I'm a little concerned because like, if they save him, then are they just going to expect his dad to take over because he's the adult and better, and that would kind of ruin the show? Or are they gonna be smart and be like, oh, I'm damaged in some way, I can't do slug slinging, I'll be Master Splinter to you guys or something like that? No, they don't even bother fucking saving him. Not only do we have the very annoying aspect of Eli's dad existing and them just not bothering to go do anything about it, we also have Junjay being here as part of the team, and they don't really feel like they know what to do with him. It's just like, oh, I know cool slug foo. Do you want to learn? You should learn slug foo. And that's all his, like, basically his entire character. There's no depth to Junjay whatsoever. I don't like, it's so frustrating.
I don't know, Junjay. Commanding slugs isn't really my style.
You must learn slug foo.
Oh, finally. I feel like we're doing this backwards.
That all sounds great and all, but Eli, when are we gonna find your dad?
Yeah, you guys just sort of go around and get back to business whenever a major threat resolves itself. Why are you not actively pursuing your father? You have Junjay now to hold your position while you could be focusing on that. There's such a thing as a workaholic.
Traditionally, we do not name a slug until it has been used for some time.
What's her name?
Yin.
The writers put no effort into this guy. Did you think we had enough villains? Well, you're wrong. We need even more, and this spider guy steals the elementals. So we're just ignoring Eli's dad completely to deal with this guy wanting to collapse the caverns so spiders can rule. I'm honestly peeved. I was so ready for them to tackle this and them dangling in front of our faces while they dance around and deal with this doofus. It's insulting. Like, I get they want this to build up and eventually deliver on what they promise, but watching Eli not really even bother showing how much he wants to see his dad only tells me he doesn't really care about his dad. It makes sense how they wanted to dedicate a mini-movie to Shane mastering Slug Fu, but I would have preferred it if Junjae figured out how to train Eli while they were hunting down his dad. It would have progressed everything forward while also accomplishing their goal. Season 4 resolves by Eli becoming the avatar of slugs, able to physically control the elementals and prevent them from destroying Slugterra. I never thought they'd rip off Avatar: The Last Airbender for their show, but it's not the worst. I mean, The Elements is just a solid mythological story to pull from, but come on, this almost feels weird. If they didn't emphasize how important slugs are to life in Slugterra, it would be weird. They set up just enough groundwork for this to be passable. Season 4, or the series of mini-movies they made that some people call Season 4, was very strange. I do like what they established, and I am excited to see more of the development of outside just the 99 Caverns and to see more possibilities with Slugterra, but this was rushed. It feels like the writers are trying to write movies, but their brains are hardwired to write TV shows, and it's just not mixing well. Now that we are transitioning back to the regular 30-minute timeline that is now going to be put on Netflix, I'm a little bit more hopeful that maybe it's going to be a little bit better, maybe hopefully please. Now you may be thinking that this is the barrier to prevent the Dark Bane from entering, but you'd be wrong. This is actually a portal to the Eastern Caverns. Just looks exactly the same. Common mistake. Wow, the Eastern Caverns sure does look like the other caverns. I was kind of expecting an Eastern Asian inspired place complete with, you know, bilateral symmetry and feng shui. And apparently these plants are upset and hostile. Now they gotta figure out what's wrong. Is there a 5 elements of the Eastern Caverns, or is that just like exclusive to the main area? Because if so, I can guess where this might be going.
I am Junjae, sworn enemy of the Emperor.
The Emperor is the bad guy. Okay, I'm a little surprised. I wasn't expecting a rebellion against the man. So the Emperor is stealing everyone's slugs so that he has all the power. Honestly, smart move. Slugs would be the most valuable resource in this world. He who controls the slugs controls the world. Eli gets a Slug Fu wrist blaster, which is supposed to help you with Slug Fu somehow. They don't explain anything with Slug Fu. It just is. You just gotta roll with it. They didn't think this through, did they? Oh my goodness! Is that a small fauna that isn't a slug? I'll be honest, I don't think I remember seeing any animals other than slugs in this world.
Junjae, when you were the Dark Slinger, you really thrashed the Eastern Caverns.
Whoa, Junjae, I gotta hand it to you. When you were the Dark Slinger and you were like destroying property and traumatizing children and creating a massive wealth gap and forcing people into poverty all for the greed of a single individual, you really made a lot of people's lives worse. How do you live with yourself knowing you were so good at your job? What? That was a compliment. We gotta pull from classic kung fu movies and have them enter a tournament so that they can meet the Emperor. This Dai Fu person has got that fancy fusion staff of her own. They get taken prisoner and they finally meet the Emperor. Now I'm getting a little disheartened. The Emperor wants to corrupt everyone with ghoul slugs. There isn't anything new. We're still using ghouls. We're still just corrupting people. There isn't any deeper purpose for the villain, just wanting power because they're bad guys. The villains in this show haven't really been all that well-rounded. There's no depth to them. Part of me wants to say, it's just a kid's show, but even if kids don't understand, they can still feel that it's not as good. They still know there's a difference. The rest of the show is well done, so it's easy to overlook it when you're young, but really seeing it again when you're older, it's a glaring and repeating problem.
Only Slug Fu can beat Slug Fu.
Okay, but Why? The moment you start asking why concerning anything related to Slug Fu, you realize that there isn't any real logic to it whatsoever. It's a neat idea, but they're just making stuff up, pretending like it's important without giving any real reason why it's important. It certainly looks helpful, but not the next evolution in fighting. We've basically just made a new Dr. Black to replace Dr. Black, while Dr. Black is supposedly still alive. Sure, the Emperor has some new and neat abilities, but regardless of my gripes with Dr. Black, there was still more to Dr. Black than this guy. I'd prefer to just have the original bad guy. They gave Dr. Black a lot of time to get familiar with him and how he operates. We've had like 4 episodes with this guy. He's not engaging. They gotta really fight to make Slug Fu look good. I mean, if you take out the music and the sound effects, all you get is like a middle schooler playing Naruto. This is just Dr. Black, but with magic and who wants to do more damage. And for some reason, Junjay and Eli aren't turning evil. Plus, where's the Goon Doc? Wouldn't he be part of this? Or the Dark Bane or Dark Water? What happened to all of it? Is this like a new corruption method exclusive to the Eastern Caverns or whatever reason? And of course, Eli learns to fully connect with Burpee using Slug Fu, and that's how he's gonna win this fight, because Slug Fu is the end-all be-all of winning with slugs, and then the ghoul slug is destroyed, and everything is reversed, and everything is fine. It's all good, but the main bad guys aren't fixed. They're just like that. That's just what they're like, apparently. I don't know. Emperor gets turned into stone. I also don't really know why. Was that the slug? What am I missing? I understand that Slug Fu is technically tied to the whole setup they've been doing with understanding the slugs on a more personal level, but they aren't really touching base with that. They deliver Slug Fu less as a druidic connection to the slugs, and rather just a fighting style. And now the Emperor is gone and the Dai Fu is the new bad guy, and they still haven't bothered looking for Eli's dad. With a new setting, I was expecting the Shane gang to have to learn a new culture and be faced with unique challenges, but it's just more of the same stuff. The scenery is almost entirely the same. Anything that isn't the Emperor's home is the exact same as in Eli's Caverns. They just copied and pasted everything else and added some Asian people and called it good. Heck, they aren't even the predominant people. They just decided to remember that there's other races. It's lazy. Wow, there's a whole new cavern that we've never been in contact with, evolving solely on their own. What a great analogy for Japan's isolationism. I'm sure they evolved exactly the same way as us. What we thought was going to be a whole season building up to a new bad guy was squandered, wrapped up in a couple episodes so we can go back to doing exactly the same thing. It just feels unnecessary. I liked what they were doing, don't get me wrong, but if they were going to do what they've been doing, I would have preferred if they didn't hype up a whole new setting and story. They aren't delivering on what they promised. So they explain the history of the Eastern Caverns, and I guess what basically happened is that there isn't a Dark Bane here. The Emperor is just this cavern's equivalent of the Dark Bane. Dark Water still exists and all that. We're just changing things up. And the Goondock was made by the Emperor, so it's sort of 2 enemies in one here, though the Goondock is still more interesting. We get to see the Dai Fu actually do evil stuff, got a new super powerful monster that sucks out someone's life in order to power it, and now it's wreaking havoc. She returns the Dark Sword to the Emperor, and he's okay now. We froze him just to mess around for several episodes and then bring him back. He sucks out the life force of the Dai Fu in order to power up more big bad behemoths. So now she's dead, but all that dark energy was sucked out of her, so that may be a win. They used Doc in a fusion to heal up the Dai Fu so that Junjay can get his Slug Fu master back. If you can just heal up these people, wouldn't we have been able to heal up the master from Eli's caves? It feels like a wasted opportunity. Cord's girlfriend built some new weapons for them to use. Also, Cord has a girlfriend. We have a big ol' battle where they gather friends they made throughout the season to fight against the Emperor's army. Shadow Clan and Junjay's master come to help, and she says, yo, listen to Burpee, he knows how to win. Eli unlocks the power of slug vision, able to see through Burpee's eyes, and I don't know, he's able to guide Burpee better and distract the Emperor enough to knock him back into the deep caverns. Like, that's how they win. I can see how that would be an advantage, but so much of an advantage that, never mind, he's back. And Junjay goes in with him. This is basically what they did before with Dr. Black and Eli. They just rehashed the previous win. Did they run out of original ideas? This season was pathetic. What happened? We got to see the same thing, but with a different flavor. Wow, I love a very undeveloped villain defeated in a uncreative way. I gave the writers the benefit of the doubt with the mini-movies, but this just confirms all of my fears. They don't have proper direction. Season 5 was miserable. I couldn't get engaged with a swarm of new characters. Characters that they did not flesh out or give us time to care about. I get why I should care about the Daifu, you know, Junjay's old master, but I only know her as the evil Daifu. I've never seen or experienced any bit of her when she was the nice master to Junjay. I would have preferred to just see her. I don't even like Junjay that much. Junjay is not really, is it Junjay or Junji? Why do they pronounce it Junjay? I think it would have been cool if Junjay had to deal with losing someone close to him, but it's a kid show. Death is not allowed. They can only fall down holes and be suggested that they're. And you know what's worse? They really hinted at Junjay really feeling the guilt of having been the Dark Slinger for 20 years and the torment that he's caused on so many people. That was brought up maybe twice and resolved in the same episode both times. Is that the Dark Slinger? How am I supposed to trust you? Because I'm better now. Okay, do this one thing that'll help me, you know, trust you again. It's like, I saved your slugs. Okay, we're good, man. That's it. God, they don't care to develop anything. They need a clear goal, an obvious bad guy, and a quick resolution. And that's a recipe for an unmemorable season. It's like they're just checking off a box, saying like, oh, the producer said to do this. It's a kid's show, we don't care. We just gotta go through the motions. I am horrified at what I will find out in season 6. Junjay who? Never heard of him. We got another new guy. Netflix got what's basically a movie for Slugterra, and already we're just tossing out some stuff to make up new things again. We have the majority of the same writing team working on this special, so I'm not sure if that's a good sign or a bad sign given with what we saw in the last couple seasons. Shadow Clan says, we need slugs near the Great Abyss. Eli is like, won't that, I don't know, upset the balance and stuff? And the Shadow Clan goes, well, we don't need humans, we just need slugs. So Eli says, bro, I'm human. WTF? So Shadow Clan deltas, and Tad, the new guy, uses his slug to hypnotize all those slugs and get them to disperse.
What was it like for you on the surface, Eli? When I was 10, my mother had to leave and I went to live with my uncle. I haven't seen or heard from her since.
Wow! They finally addressed the other parent. So you haven't seen your mom or your dad, who you still haven't gone to save. This kid really just doesn't care about his parents. Yeesh.
But the gold is for the building society to build an orphanage.
We grew up without an orphanage.
Yeah, all we had was parents.
I would say that's backwards, but given how Eli treats his parents, maybe it's just better to be an orphan in this world.
Those who harm slugs will perish.
Wait, you just spoke our language?
If you could have done that this whole time, why didn't you? Heck, why is there a crown that translates what you say if you could just speak our language in the first place? Now the crown makes no sense. So because people are being people and continuing the slug slave trade, the Shadow Clan decides to just go back on literally all of the development they had for some reason, even though there doesn't seem to be any reason for it. I'm hoping this is just their leader being, I don't know, mind controlled or something, because otherwise this is a whole new low for the writers. Their whole beef is that Shane left to help the Eastern Caverns, and Eli is just like, dude, you were supposed to protect the slugs while I was gone. And that's why they're upset, apparently. I'm still holding out hope that this is just a red herring or something. The writers can't be this incompetent. Can they? I mean, they're a little incompetent, but they can't be this incompetent. Wow, Tad is interested in Dr. Black's old ghoul research. You're telling me the new guy that they know nothing about, that Eli trusted far too easily, actually has a nefarious motive? I'm so surprised. It's just like what happened with Twist. You guys remember Twist? That character they used for like 4 episodes and then they forgot he existed? So chalk this up twice now for the writers having reused something they've already done before. They figure out Piper, Tad's slug, is hypnotizing the slugs to get ghouled, so Pronto makes himself useful for the first time in 6 seasons and captures Piper.
These trespassers will be off the family estate any minute now. I'm picking up where my feeble father left off.
Wait, did they ever talk about Dr. Black coming from the surface? I always just assume based on the flashbacks of the stories that he told Eli that he was born in Slugterra like all the rest of the people, but I guess they never explicitly said that, so I guess this isn't retconning, but it sort of feels like it could be. I guess it's just filling in blank spaces. It gets a pass. It gets a pass. I can't fault them for this. Arguably it's clever. They didn't say. I just could be wrong. I don't know. I don't have a distinct memory of them saying that he was from the surface. Also, Thaddeus Black named his son Thaddeus Black. I think it's ironic how Dr. Black abandoned his son and Eli abandoned his dad. Of course, Shadow Clan show up and ask what's going on. Eli explains that he's a gullible big dummy dum-dum who trusted someone too quick, and now there's ghouls again. So they gotta team up in order to stop Tad.
Okay, Eli's in.
Those who harm sluts will perish.
The language barrier is gonna be an issue.
Oh, he only knows one phrase in our language. Okay, cool. The translator crown makes sense again. We're good. This show switched from creating an interesting world to focusing on action and comedy. Everything else started becoming secondary to the parts that actually hooked us in. They add tidbits of world building and lore in order to dangle it in front of us, promising more, but then throw it away just to focus on more action and comedy. It's like they stopped caring about the story. Oh my gosh, you're telling me that Tad gets overzealous with his power and gets tossed into a big hole? Wow, I'm so surprised.
You know, we're getting pretty good at knocking people down holes.
Lampshading it doesn't make it okay, you cowards. But don't worry, he doesn't die, he just wakes up in the dark Bane. Wow, can't wait for him to develop into the new villain. And then they never develop him into a new villain. That was the end of Slugterra. DHX Media stopped producing episodes of Slugterra as the writing waned and interest fell. The show started to focus on making new entry points for potentially new fans, while also trying to deliver on some of the story beats and lore for the older fans, but neither of it really worked. What we got were half-baked stories and crappy villains, and in the end, that just lost the trust of the fans. A lot of people kept watching the show because it was nostalgic and the premise is really cool. But that can only get you so far. That was enough to get an initial fan base, but not enough to keep it alive. A lot of companies during this time did not fully understand how fandom culture worked. So when they developed a fandom, they were sort of floundering on how to keep them interested. Now they understand it better. And Slugterra was being aired in between when companies started like really understanding the importance of fandom culture and how it keeps a show alive and how much like great word of mouth marketing that is for a show. But they dropped the ball hard on Slugterra. And the show had a solid chance of a comeback with season 6, Into the Shadows. But after dropping the ball so hard with the Easter Caverns, I would imagine that a lot of the people who were more of the middle ground fans, not really like the diehards, but the people who make up the majority of everything else. You know, you have the people who are like extreme diehards and the people who just hate something. Everyone else in the middle, the normal people, the casual fans, they saw the flop that was the Eastern Caverns and said, sorry, I don't care about Into the Shadows. I'm done. A lot of them walked out. The slow fading away of Slugterra is sad, and seeing the potential squandered is even sadder. So if you could reboot the show, what would you do? What would you keep and what would you do different? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. That's everything I have for you today. Stay beautiful and keep playing.